I was going to ask, I know everyone kind of goes in a candidate, but those of us on the outside world do like to speculate. In 2013, did anyone suspect that who we now know as Pope Francis would become Pope?
Um, I have to give credit where it's due. One journalist who covered the Vatican for many years, John, then of Catholic News Service, um, and his coverage only wrote one candidate profile, and he had apparently very good sources. I can still remember seeing the headline, which was a runner-up from last time might get a fresh look or something like that, and his sources were saying, "Oh, we might be looking at Bergoglio," and he had posited that they were saying as a backup plan or something, because he was not a media candidate in the sense of like the names with baseball card stats next, and uh, it turned out he was the first pick of a critical mass of Cardinals going into that election. So the real answer to your question is no, he was not on people's radar. Um, and it was the exception that someone had Bergoglio's number.
Bergoglio, of course, being Francis's name before
The
he
late
took the
Pope
name,
Francis, yes.
the late Pope Francis, just for folks who haven't been reading as much as you and I have. Okay, and I will hedge this using a quote that you used in one of your pieces of coverage, which is that there's an Italian saying that he who enters the conclave a pope exits a cardinal, and that it is a fool's errand for journalists to speculate who will become pope. So we're framing the conversation, recognizing this might be a foolhardy game, but in your view, and you've written about this, who do you see as the contenders for the papacy?
I There's a lot of conventional wisdom that says like one of the cardinals from the Philippines who works in the Vatican, Luis Antonio Tagle, has all the makings of. I mean, he's telegenic, this very pastoral, charismatic guy who was promoted to various posts by the last three popes. So kind of like just woven into the tradition of it. He is someone whose name comes up a lot. Um, but that doesn't necessarily pretend that he'll come out of the conclave a pope. He could come out of it a cardinal. Um, Other names that come up include, oh shoot, uh, well, I mean, there's always the questions that get tossed around are like, will the papacy ever go back to Italy? You know, should we be looking at, because they still have more cardinals than any other country. Um, there's always this persistent media narrative of, oh, could there be an American pope, which traditionally has been dismissed as like, oh well, they're not going to give the papacy to the superpower that has everything else too. um, Although in 2013 the Cardinal Archbishop of Boston, Cardinal Sean O'Malley, apparently was not only a media candidate. There were people prepared uh, to actually vote for him. Another name that comes up a lot, Cardinal Mario Grech, who heads the Vatican's Synod office. The Synod being like the project of Francis's pontificate. This push toward encouraging dialogue and listening at every level of the Catholic Church, that we actually know what people are thinking and saying, and like where the Spirit is leading, the entire body of Christ, as we would say. So to be tapped to lead Francis's pet project is like certainly a vote of confidence. And he's an affable, charismatic guy, who is like a way to not return to Italy, uh, but also return to Italy. And what I mean by that is we had 400 years of Italian popes, then we had 35 years of Northern European popes, and with Francis, they went to Latin America, but it was a guy whose family had immigrated from Italy, so it was like they got to have it both ways. And Cardinal Grech would be that too. He's from Malta. So, oh no, no, totally not an Italian pope. It's something that's emerged for me since writing that article. It's like the world scene is very dicey, and I think they'll be talking about that more than they'll be talking about internal matters, and that raises an entirely different profile, a set of experiences, whether that's diplomatic or somebody who's traveled the world a lot, has the linguistical acumen to you know uh, engage directly with leaders and communities all over the world. It's going to be a tricky time for the church.
I was going to ask you how much a factor geography would play into this upcoming conclave. Much has been made of Pope Francis being the first pope from Latin America, and how much that has done for the church. And when we talk about some of the cardinals he has appointed, some writers have been pointing out the geographic diversity from which he has appointed these cardinals. They're really coming from all over. So, does that global mindset perhaps shake up the considerations of the conclave?
I mean, Europe's percentage of the electors is I believe at a historic low, and um, yes, you can't deny that 70 plus countries, represented in a voting body, a relatively small voting body, is going to have an outsized effect. I think it's a desired effect. It's the continued internationalization, as they call it, that's happened in the last 60 years of the church under the last several popes. And um, geography will and won't factor in. Like, I don't think anybody's going to arbitrarily say, like, oh, Francis brought the cutting edge ideas of the church in Latin America to the whole church. We must continue that. I think that's taking it a little literally. But if somebody fits the profile, geography kind of clicks into place. Cardinal Bergoglio happened to be from Argentina and represented all of these emerging ideas that their time had come, but it wasn't arbitrary. He was seen as the man in a wider sense.